Smoke and fire twisted across the horizon like angry spirits, painting the sky in shades of red and black. The battlefield was littered with twisted metal, shattered vehicles, and the bodies of both humans and aliens. The sound of distant explosions and the occasional roar of alien engines echoed through the ruined city, a grim reminder that this war had no mercy for the innocent. Somewhere amid the chaos, a small figure ran. Mika's tiny legs carried her as fast as they could, weaving through rubble and debris. Her brown hair was matted with soot, and her clothes were torn. She was barely 10 years old, but she had already learned that running and hiding could mean the difference between life and death. She clutched a small satchel close to her chest, its contents unknown even to her parents, lost somewhere in the chaos of evacuation. She paused for a moment behind a crumbled wall, panting and trying to calm her racing heart. Her eyes darted across the battlefield. In the distance, the human defense lines were breaking. Soldiers shouted orders that were quickly drowned out by alien gunfire. Mechs stumbled, sparks flying as they fell. Everything around her seemed to be collapsing, and yet, somehow, she had to keep moving. Mika had been separated from her family during the first wave of the attack. They had promised her that she would meet them again at the safe zone near the city's edge, but she had no idea if the safe zone even still existed. The thought of them gave her courage, but fear made her hesitate as a shadow passed over her hiding spot. She pressed herself against the wall, hoping it would be enough. A strange hum filled the air. Mika peeked over the rubble and froze. A creature unlike any she had ever seen stood near the edge of the battlefield. Its skin shimmered like liquid silver, and its eyes glowed a gentle blue. It moved with grace, each step deliberate and calm, completely different from the chaos around it. Mika's instincts screamed at her to run, yet curiosity held her frozen. The being was not attacking. It bent down, touching something on the ground with long, slender fingers. Mika squinted, trying to understand. It seemed to be examining, studying rather than destroying. She realized that it wasn't like the others, the soldiers who had been hunting humans relentlessly. This one was different. Before she could decide what to do, a sudden explosion nearby sent her tumbling backward. Dust filled her lungs, and she coughed violently, choking on grit. When the smoke cleared, the silver-skinned figure was closer than before, almost like it had appeared out of nowhere. Mika's heart pounded in her chest. "Stay back!" she shouted, her voice trembling even though she knew the alien might not understand. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if listening. Then, in a voice soft but clear, it spoke in her language. "Child, you will not be harmed. Especially not aliens." Why aren't you hurting me?" she asked cautiously, her voice barely above a whisper. The alien knelt to her level, lowering itself so it wasn't intimidating. Its glowing eyes softened. "I do not wish to hurt you. The others they do not see as I see. You are small but brave. You are important." They were the standard war machines of the alien race, tall, armored, with weapons that glowed ominously. Mika's stomach sank. She turned to run, but the silver-skinned alien moved faster than she could comprehend. In a blink, it had positioned itself between her and the soldiers. The Xyler soldiers paused, scanning. The silver alien raised its hands, and the weapons of the soldiers powered down instantly, as if an unseen force had frozen them. Mika blinked. She had never seen anything like this. The alien's presence alone had stopped them. "Go," it said simply, and before Mika could protest, it gently guided her behind a pile of rubble. She followed, trembling, but moved quickly. The soldiers scanned the area for a moment before retreating, clearly unnerved by something they couldn't understand. Mika watched them disappear, her hands shaking. You saved me," she whispered. The alien nodded, rising to its full height. "And I will continue to do so if you allow it. My name is Liara." "Mika, we must move quickly. The battlefield is not safe for you, and staying here will lead to capture or worse." They passed destroyed buildings, smoldering vehicles, and the occasional human or alien casualty. Mika could hardly believe she was walking through the same city she had played in just a week ago. It was unrecognizable now, a war-torn landscape of death and fire. Why are you helping me?" Mika finally asked, unable to contain her curiosity. Liara's eyes dimmed slightly, a sign of thought in her kind. "Not all of my kind see the value in life beyond war, but I do. You are small, fragile, yet I see strength in you. Humans have a spark that is rare, Mika, a spark that survives even in hopeless places." Somehow she could trust this alien. They reached a partially collapsed building, one that appeared to have been abandoned for days. Liara ushered Mika inside, pressing her against the wall as she scanned for danger. The air inside was dusty, the floor littered with broken furniture, but it was quiet. Safe, at least for the moment. Mika sank to the ground, hugging her knees. I thought I'd never see anyone nice again. Liara shared small lessons about survival, how to move quietly, how to avoid patrols, and how to read the patterns of war machines. Mika listened intently, absorbing every word. She realized that even though she was just a child, she could use her wits to stay alive. Hours passed, and the distant sounds of battle grew quieter as the night deepened. Mika drifted in and out of sleep, her small body trembling from exhaustion. She dreamed of her family, of a home she barely remembered, and of strange stars in the sky that seemed closer than ever before. When she awoke, Liara was sitting beside her, gently nudging her awake. "We must move," the alien said. "The humans are regrouping, but the battle is not yet over. You will need your courage soon." The battlefield looked different in daylight, less menacing perhaps, but no less dangerous. Smoke still rose from craters, and the cries of the wounded echoed faintly, but Mika held Liara's hand, trusting her guidance. As they moved through the streets, Mika noticed something remarkable. Small groups of humans were still hiding, survivors clutching their meager belongings, children holding onto their parents with terrified eyes. And somewhere in the distance, she could hear the faint sound of organized human resistance. Mika's heart lifted slightly. She was not alone. She had not been completely forgotten. And even in this world of fire and alien might, she had found a strange ally in Liara. "Where are we going?" Mika asked, her voice steady now, more confident. "Somewhere safe," Liara replied, "and somewhere from which you may help your people. Humanity is strong, Mika. You will see it soon. You will be part of something greater." How could she be part of anything greater? But as she looked at Liara, she saw sincerity and wisdom in her glowing eyes. Maybe she could make a difference after all. The two of them moved forward, stepping carefully over debris, avoiding patrols, and moving toward a distant hill that overlooked the city. From there, Mika could see the scale of the destruction and the resilience of the remaining humans. And in that moment, she felt something stir inside her, a mixture of fear, courage, and determination. The war was far from over. The Xylar forces were relentless, and human losses were staggering. But Mika understood something now that she hadn't before. Even the smallest spark could ignite hope, even in the darkest night. And as she ran beside the alien who had saved her, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she could survive. The battlefield raged around them, but Mika no longer felt powerless. With Liara at her side, she had a chance. A chance to fight, to survive, and to shine. And in a world filled with destruction, that small, fierce spark of humanity refused to die. The first rays of sunlight cut through the haze of smoke and dust, painting the ruined city in shades of gold and gray. Mika followed Liara carefully, stepping over fallen beams and cracked pavement. The child's legs were sore and her clothes were stiff with dirt, but a strange determination had taken root inside her. She was no longer just running to survive. She was learning to move, to think, to survive with purpose. Liara moved ahead, silent and graceful, her long fingers brushing lightly against debris as she scanned the surroundings. Mika tried to imitate her, lowering her head, crouching behind broken walls, and moving as quietly as possible. It was exhausting, but the alien never seemed to tire. The child admired her, though she did not yet fully understand why Liara had chosen to help her. "Why are you helping me?" Mika asked, breaking the silence for the first time since dawn. Liara paused, her glowing eyes softening. "Not all of my kind wish to destroy. Some of us, we see life differently. You are small, fragile, but I see courage and cleverness in you. Humans have a spark, one that even we cannot fully understand. I wish to protect it, at least for now." And yet here she was, being trusted and guided by an alien who saw more in her than fear. It made her chest swell with pride, and for the first time in days she felt a small flicker of hope. The two moved cautiously through the streets, eventually reaching a building that had once been a library. Its roof had partially collapsed, but the interior seemed relatively intact. Liara gestured for Mika to enter, and the child obeyed. Inside, the dust hung thick in the air, and the silence was almost comforting. For a brief moment, Mika could breathe without the constant threat of alien patrols. "You will need to rest," Liara said. "Your body is tired, but your mind must stay sharp. There will be more danger soon, and you must be ready." "What are those?" Mika asked, pointing to a small device that hummed faintly. Liara glanced at it and smiled faintly. "Tools of understanding. Some help us see patterns, some help us protect life. One day you will understand them too. But first you must learn patience. Bravery without knowledge is reckless. You must think, observe, and act carefully. Liara explained how the Xylar soldiers moved in patrols, how their machines emitted signals that humans could detect if they knew what to listen for, and how small gestures could avoid danger. Mika absorbed it all, amazed at how much she could understand despite being only a child. By midday, they were ready to leave the library. Mika felt a strange excitement mixed with fear. This time they were not just hiding, they were moving with purpose. Liara led the way, guiding Mika through back alleys and collapsed buildings. Occasionally, they encountered other humans, small groups huddled together, frightened and unsure. Mika felt a tug in her heart, but Liara whispered, "We cannot help everyone, not yet. We must survive first." She wanted to run to hide, but Liara placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Observe," Liara whispered. "Do not act until you understand the pattern." Mika could predict where they would turn next. "Now," Liara said softly, "follow my path and step where I step. Trust yourself." For the first time, she felt the thrill of using her mind and courage to navigate danger, rather than just running blindly. Once they were safely out of sight, Mika exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. Liara smiled at her, a rare and gentle expression. "You are learning quickly. Soon, you will be able to help others, not just survive." "This will be our temporary refuge," Liara said. "Here we can rest, observe, and plan. You will also learn to read the patterns of your enemies. Knowledge is as powerful as courage, Mika." She had kept it close all this time, a small piece of her life before the war. She flipped through the pages, her pencil sketches and notes now seeming insignificant, yet comforting. Liara observed silently for a moment. "Your tools, even small ones, are important. Humans have a gift for creativity, using simple things in ways no other species can imagine. Do not underestimate yourself." The alien showed her how to purify water and ration supplies, how to think ahead for multiple days, and how to anticipate danger before it arrived. Mika listened intently, understanding that survival required both courage and intelligence. Night came, and the tunnel was dark, but Mika felt safer than she had in days. Liara stayed near, keeping watch, but allowed the child a small moment of peace. Mika thought of her family, her friends, and her home. She did not know if she would ever see them again, but she made a promise to herself. She would survive. She would grow stronger. And maybe somehow she would find a way to help others like her. During the night, Mika dreamed. She dreamt of the battlefield, not as a place of death, but as a place where humans stood strong and clever against impossible odds. She imagined herself leading others, guiding them through danger, and using her wits to overcome challenges. She felt a sense of excitement mixed with fear. It was the first time she had imagined a future beyond mere survival. When she awoke, Liara was already preparing for movement. "Today," she said, "we begin a new step. You have learned to survive, but now you will learn to observe, understand, and plan. Humans are clever, Mika. You will see it soon, and you will use it to help your people. I want to do something important." Together, they moved through the tunnels, emerging in a part of the city still untouched by the worst of the battle. Mika saw signs of life, humans scavenging, hiding, and surviving against all odds. It was a reminder that they were not alone, and that even in the darkest moments, hope could exist. Liara guided Mika to a vantage point overlooking the city. From there, Mika could see the full scope of the battlefield. The human forces were scattered, some hiding in ruins, others fighting desperately. The Xylar machines moved with precision and order, but Mika noticed something Liara had hinted at: small patterns, weaknesses in their formations, moments when they hesitated. "You see it?" Liara asked. "The enemy is powerful but not perfect. Observe, remember, and think. Humans survive because we see what others do not. But humans are clever, resilient, and resourceful. You are not powerless. You have courage, and you will learn to use it with wisdom. Together, we will find a way to survive and to make a difference." Hope, courage, intelligence, a spark that could not be extinguished. And for the first time in days, she believed that maybe, just maybe, she could make a difference in this war. The city lay quiet in the early morning, but the tension in the air was thick. Mika stood at the edge of a collapsed rooftop, her small hands gripping the rough concrete as she peered down at the streets below. Liara stood beside her, silent and calm as ever, her glowing blue eyes scanning the area with a precision Mika could only hope to imitate one day. "See them?" Liara asked softly. Mika nodded. "The humans, they're hiding, but some are still moving. The Xylar soldiers are near. Even small actions can change a battle if planned well." Liara crouched and gestured to Mika to do the same. You have observed carefully. You have learned patterns. Now it is time to think. You see a weakness in the Xylar soldiers. Do you know what it is? They wait too long before changing direction, she said hesitantly. Sometimes they look around, but if someone moves quickly and quietly, they don't notice right away. Mika learned to map the streets in her mind, noting where Xylar patrols paused, where humans were hiding, and where supplies could be found. She began to understand the scale of the problem. The human forces were scattered, weary, and desperate. But they were still alive, and alive meant there was hope. Liara explained that the first step in making a difference was to inspire others, to show that humans could fight not just for survival, but with cleverness and courage. Mika's small size and quick thinking could allow her to move through dangerous areas unnoticed, carrying messages, tools, or instructions to hidden groups of humans. You can be a spark, Liara said. Even a child can inspire courage if the actions are brave and intelligent. If she could help even a few humans, if she could show them that hope still existed, maybe the war would not seem so hopeless. Their first mission came sooner than expected. Liara had discovered a group of humans trapped in a partially destroyed building near the center of the city. They were hiding from a nearby Xylar patrol and had no way to communicate with the rest of the survivors. You will go with me, Liara said. Quietly, observe first, then act. You must think, Mika. One wrong move could endanger them and us. The streets were littered with debris, and the sunlight reflected off twisted metal in blinding flashes. They moved slowly, staying close to walls and avoiding open areas. Mika's heart pounded with each step, but she forced herself to breathe steadily. She reminded herself of the patterns she had learned, the pauses in the Xylar patrols, and the quiet routes that would allow them to move unseen. They reached the building where the humans were hiding. Peeking through a broken window, Mika saw them, a small family, a few older men, and a handful of teenagers, all clutching whatever weapons they could find. Their faces were pale with fear, and they looked as though they had given up hope. Mika's heart ached. She knew that feeling, but she also knew that she could bring a spark to them. She took a deep breath and stepped aside as Liara signaled her to enter quietly. The alien moved with smooth, deliberate motions, and Mika followed as best as she could, her small form slipping through the rubble unnoticed. Inside, the humans froze when they saw Liara. Mika stepped forward, holding out her hands in a gesture of peace. It's okay, she said softly. We're not here to hurt you. We can help. We can leave safely, she said. I know the streets, I know the patrols. If we move together quietly, we can reach a safer area. We can survive and maybe fight back. Liara guided them carefully, with Mika leading the way. They moved through narrow alleys, across collapsed streets, and under fallen beams. Mika kept her focus sharp, noting the sounds of distant patrols, the shadows that shifted with the sunlight, and the small openings in walls that allowed them to slip unseen. At one point, a patrol passed dangerously close. Mika froze, her heart racing, and held her breath. The soldiers moved past without noticing, their weapons scanning empty streets. Mika exhaled slowly, realizing that her careful observation and patience had saved them all. Hours passed as they moved, and Mika grew more confident with each step. She began to give small instructions to the humans, when to pause, where to step lightly, which streets to avoid. They began to see her as a leader, a spark of hope in the midst of despair. Finally, they reached a partially hidden courtyard where more humans were hiding. Mika recognized some of them from her previous observations, and she felt a sense of pride. She had guided the first group safely, and now others could be helped too. Liara smiled at her. You see, Mika, courage and intelligence together can inspire. You are not powerless. One small spark can light many fires. That realization gave her strength. As evening approached, Mika and Liara helped the humans settle into a safer position. They shared food, water, and knowledge of the streets. Mika saw the transformation in the humans' eyes, fear giving way to cautious hope, despair turning into determination. She understood now that leadership was not about size or age. It was about courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire. Liara stayed close, guiding Mika, but allowing her to take the lead. Mika felt proud and responsible, but also aware that their work had only just begun. The battlefield was vast, and the Xylar forces were relentless. Yet she felt something new inside her, a spark of confidence and purpose. As night fell, they gathered in a hidden chamber beneath the city, a safe spot Liara had discovered in the tunnels. Mika looked at the humans she had helped, their faces tired but grateful. She realized that even in the darkest times, small actions could make a difference. Liara approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Today you were brave, you were clever, you inspired others. That is the mark of humanity, courage, intelligence, and heart. You have it in abundance. Humans do more than survive. They adapt, they inspire, and they lead. You are learning what it means to be human in the truest sense. She also realized that even a small child could make a difference in a war that seemed hopeless. The night passed quietly. Mika slept in short bursts, dreaming of strategies, safe routes, and the humans she had helped. She imagined leading more groups, guiding others, and showing that courage and intelligence were just as powerful as weapons. She was no longer just a child running for survival. She was a spark of hope, a symbol of what humanity could achieve even in the darkest times. By dawn, Mika was awake, alert, and ready to continue. Liara had already begun planning their next steps, locating more survivors, mapping the enemy's movements, and identifying opportunities to inspire human resistance. Mika listened carefully, absorbing every word. She understood now that the war was not only fought with weapons, but also with courage, strategy, and the ability to unite others. As they emerged from the tunnels into the first light of day, Mika felt a sense of determination stronger than fear. The battlefield was still dangerous, and the Xylar forces were powerful, but she knew that humans had something the aliens could never fully control: adaptability, ingenuity, and heart. She glanced at Liara, who moved beside her with calm confidence. Mika felt a deep gratitude for the alien who had saved her, guided her, and believed in her potential. She also felt a growing responsibility for the humans she had helped, for those still in danger, and for the role she would play in shaping the resistance. The city stretched out before them, broken and scarred, but full of possibility. Mika took a deep breath, feeling the weight of both fear and hope. She had survived, she had helped others survive, and now she would do more. She would fight not with weapons, but with courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others to act. The first sparks of hope had been lit, and Mika understood that even a child could ignite fires that might one day turn the tide of a war. The sun had barely risen when Mika awoke, the cold floor of the hidden chamber pressing against her small body. The distant hum of engines and the occasional sharp crack of gunfire reminded her that the war had not paused for rest. Liara was already awake, moving quietly among the humans they had helped the day before, checking supplies and listening carefully to the sounds of the city above. Mika rose, stretching her stiff limbs, and watched the alien move with calm precision. Liara had a plan, she realized, a way to take action, not just survive. Today would be different. Today, Mika would not just guide or observe, she would take a part in something bigger. "Are you ready?" Liara asked, her glowing blue eyes focused on Mika. Mika nodded, a mixture of fear and determination coursing through her. She had never faced a battle like this, but she understood now that courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. She had learned to observe, plan, and inspire. Now it was time to act. Liara led them through a narrow passage that opened into the ruins of a city square. The air was heavy with smoke, and the twisted skeletons of destroyed buildings cast long shadows. Xylar patrols moved through the streets, precise and relentless, yet Mika noticed what Liara had taught her: patterns. Even in their perfection, the soldiers had predictable pauses, split-second hesitations that humans could exploit. "Observe first," Liara instructed. "Then act carefully. One mistake could cost lives." She saw a small group of human survivors trapped in a partially destroyed building across the square. Their faces were pale, their bodies tense with fear. They were too afraid to move, too unsure of the enemy's patterns. "This is our chance," Liara whispered. "We can guide them out and perhaps gain more than survival. We can show them the courage of humans." She had led small groups before, but this would be different. This would be in full view of the enemy, though carefully concealed. She felt her heart pounding, but also a growing confidence. She could do this. She must do this. Step by step, Mika and Liara moved closer, using shadows and rubble to remain unseen. Mika's small form slipped through openings that even adults could not fit through, moving with silent precision. She noticed each soldier's patrol path, each pause, each scan, and guided the humans with subtle gestures. When they reached the trapped group, Mika called softly, "It's safe. Follow me quietly. You must trust us." But when they saw Mika, small but fearless, leading the way, they followed. The child's courage had become contagious. Step by careful step, they moved through the ruins, avoiding patrols, slipping past watchful eyes, and making their way towards safer territory. Liara moved behind them, scanning constantly. "Stay close, move together, and trust Mika's guidance," she instructed. For several tense minutes, they advanced through the city. The Xylar soldiers passed by, scanning the streets with precision, yet Mika's careful observation and the humans' obedience allowed them to go unnoticed. Every small action, every careful pause was a victory. Mika's heart raced, but she remained focused. Each step forward was proof of human resilience and intelligence. Suddenly, a patrol turned a corner unexpectedly. Mika froze, holding her breath. The humans behind her froze as well, their bodies stiff with fear. The soldiers moved closer, their glowing weapons sweeping the area. Mika's mind raced. She remembered Liara's lessons: observe patterns, notice subtle pauses, act decisively. When the soldiers paused for a brief moment, Mika darted forward, signaling the humans to follow. They moved as quietly and quickly as possible, slipping through a narrow gap in the rubble. The soldiers' patrol passed unaware. Mika exhaled quietly, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. They had survived, and her courage and intelligence had guided them. After reaching a relatively safe alley, Mika turned to see the humans' expressions. They were wide-eyed, but there was a spark of hope. The fear had not vanished, but it was tempered by a growing understanding that survival was possible, even against overwhelming odds. Liara smiled, a rare and gentle expression. "You see, Mika, courage and cleverness together can inspire. You are not powerless. Even a child can make a difference." A larger group of Xylar soldiers appeared ahead, blocking the main street. Retreating was not an option. The trapped humans were relying on Mika to guide them to safety. She looked around, thinking quickly. The square was full of rubble, broken vehicles, and partial walls. She could use it. "Follow me," Mika said firmly, her voice calm despite the fear twisting inside her. "We can go around through the rubble. Move quietly and step where I step." When they reached a temporary hideout in a ruined building, Mika finally allowed herself to breathe. The humans settled in, exhausted but alive. They looked at her with gratitude and awe. She felt a strange pride, not for herself alone, but for what humans could achieve when they combined courage with cleverness. "You did well," Liara said, placing a hand gently on Mika's shoulder. "Today you were not just surviving. You led, inspired, and protected. That is the mark of humanity. That is why you survive when others might not. That is why you inspire." Mika listened, realizing that she was part of something larger, a network of human resilience, small acts of intelligence and bravery that could ripple across the battlefield. Liara explained that tomorrow they would begin a new step. They would not only help humans survive, but start turning the tide in small ways. Disrupting enemy supply lines, guiding more survivors, and using clever tactics could weaken the Xylar's control. Mika felt a shiver of anticipation. This was no longer just survival, it was strategy, intelligence, and leadership. That night, Mika stayed awake longer than usual. She thought of the humans she had guided, of the patterns she had noticed, and of the small victories they had achieved. She thought of her family and the possibility that she could find them, stronger and braver than before. Liara remained near, observing the city from a small vantage point above the hideout. Mika realized that the alien was not only a guide, but also a teacher. She had learned how to survive. Now she was learning how to act, how to inspire, and how to lead. By dawn, Mika felt ready. Today, they would move more decisively. Liara had a plan, a way to create confusion among the Xylar patrols, giving human survivors a chance to escape or regroup. Mika listened carefully, committing every detail to memory. She understood now that even small actions, if well thought out, could have a huge impact. They moved through the city, guided by careful observation and intelligence. Mika led small groups of humans through hidden paths, teaching them what she had learned about the patterns of the Xylar. Each successful mission built confidence and courage, spreading hope where there had been fear. During one tense moment, Mika noticed an injured human child trapped near a Xylar patrol. Without hesitation, she signaled Liara, who assessed the situation. Using a clever distraction, Mika darted forward, guiding the child to safety. Her heart raced, but she acted decisively, using her intelligence and bravery to succeed. Once safe, the child looked at Mika with wide eyes. You saved me," the boy whispered. Mika smiled faintly. "We help each other. Humans survive together," she said. Liara observed silently, pride in her eyes. Mika was no longer just a child surviving. She was becoming a symbol of what humanity could achieve: courage, intelligence, and heart combined. As the day ended, Mika and Liara returned to their hidden chamber. The city outside was still dangerous, but the humans they had helped were safer. Small victories, Mika realized, were building momentum. She could see that humans, even scattered and outnumbered, had the power to resist when guided with courage and intelligence. Mika looked at Liara, understanding something new. Even in the darkest battles, humans could inspire hope, lead wisely, and turn small actions into meaningful change. She had begun to see herself not just as a survivor, but as a spark, capable of lighting fires of courage and resilience in others. Liara spoke softly. "The work is far from over, Mika. Tomorrow we will do more. But today you have proven that courage and intelligence together can change outcomes. Humans are strong, even when others doubt them. And you are proof of that strength." As night fell, Mika looked toward the distant horizon, the ruins of the city stretching endlessly. She felt a spark within her, a spark of hope, courage, and determination. The battle was far from over, but she knew one thing: humans, even small, clever, and frightened, could resist, inspire, and survive. And she would be at the heart of it. The first light of dawn stretched over the ruins of the city, casting long shadows across streets filled with debris and quiet tension. Mika stood at the edge of a shattered building, her small frame tense with anticipation. Today would not be just another day of guiding humans through danger. It would be a day of action, a day to show that courage, intelligence, and determination could change the tide of a battle. Liara stood beside her, her glowing blue eyes scanning the city. "The Xylar forces are moving differently today," she said. "They are reorganizing. This is our chance to strike not with weapons, but with strategy and courage. Humans can inspire change in ways the aliens cannot predict." Humans, however, had something the aliens could never control: adaptability and heart. They moved quickly through the streets, slipping past patrols and weaving through rubble. Mika led small groups of survivors, teaching them the routes, guiding them through blind spots in the Xylar patrols, and demonstrating the clever tricks she had learned. Each group that reached safety gained confidence, their fear replaced by determination. As they moved, Mika spotted an opportunity. A supply depot used by the Xylar lay partially exposed, guarded by only a few machines and soldiers. If disrupted, it could slow enemy operations and give human survivors more time to regroup. Mika glanced at Liara. "We can do it," Liara said, her tone calm but firm. "You will lead, I will guide and protect. Trust yourself." Mika guided the humans through alleys and rubble, avoiding patrols and using shadows to remain unseen. When they reached the edge of the depot, they paused, observing the guards. The Xylar soldiers moved with mechanical precision, scanning the area methodically, but Mika noticed the pauses, the moments when they hesitated. "Now," Mika whispered. The group moved swiftly and quietly. Mika led them through gaps in the walls, over piles of rubble, and behind crates. Liara provided cover when necessary, using her abilities to subtly distract the Xylar and keep them unaware. Every step was careful, every movement calculated. Once inside, Mika guided the humans to the central area of the depot. Using her knowledge of patterns, they set small devices Liara had shown them, tools to disrupt communication, shut down lights, and confuse the Xylar machines. It was cleverness over brute force, patience, and intelligence over weapons. The moment came. Mika triggered the devices, and the depot erupted into controlled chaos. Machines powered down, alarms blared, and soldiers stumbled, disoriented. Mika's heart pounded as humans moved quickly to safety, guided by her precise instructions. They had done it, not through fighting, but through planning, courage, and intelligence. As they escaped the depot, the Xylar began to realize what had happened. Soldiers shouted orders, machines roared to life, but the humans were already moving through safe paths Mika had scouted. Each successful escape, each clever maneuver spread hope among the survivors. Mika's courage had become contagious. Liara watched quietly, her expression softening. "You see, Mika, humans are unpredictable. They adapt, they survive, they inspire. This is what makes your kind powerful." She had started as a frightened child running to survive, and now she had led humans through danger, disrupted enemy operations, and inspired courage. The group reached a high vantage point overlooking the city. Below them, the battlefield stretched wide. Xylar patrols moved rigidly, unaware of the growing human resistance. Mika realized that even small victories, when carefully planned, could change the course of events. Liara spoke softly. "The Xylar see humans as weak, but your courage, intelligence, and heart prove otherwise. Today they are confused and off balance. Tomorrow your people will gain strength. Humans endure, Mika, and you have shown why." Suddenly, a human soldier from one of the survivor groups ran up to Mika, panting. We saw what you did at the depot," he said, awe in his voice. You saved lives, you gave us hope. Courage is stronger when shared. Mika led them through safe routes, helped them organize supplies, and taught them to observe and adapt. Each action strengthened the group, each small success building morale and confidence. Liara stayed near, offering guidance and protection when needed, but allowing Mika to take the lead. She watched with quiet pride as the child, once lost, frightened, and alone, became a symbol of human resilience. By evening, Mika and Liara had guided a large group to a safer area on the edge of the city. The humans were tired, but their faces showed hope, determination, and a growing sense of unity. Mika looked at them, realizing how far she had come. She had started as a child running to survive, but now she was a leader, a spark of courage and intelligence that inspired others. Liara spoke softly. Today you showed the true strength of humanity. Courage, cleverness, and heart, these are your weapons. Even in the darkest times, humans can prevail. We survived, she said, and we can keep going. We can help more people. We can make a difference. As night fell, Mika and Liara stood together on a high ridge overlooking the city. The ruins were quiet now, but the small victories of the day echoed in the minds of the survivors. The Xylar forces were still powerful, but their rigid strategies had been disrupted. Humans had survived, fought smartly, and inspired each other. Mika looked at Liara, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars above. Thank you, she said. I couldn't have done this without you. She realized that her journey was far from over, but the lessons she had learned, the courage to act, the intelligence to plan, the heart to lead, would carry her forward. In the days that followed, the survivors spread the story of Mika's courage. Humans who had been hiding in fear began to organize, using clever tactics and observation to avoid the Xylar and reclaim small areas of the city. Mika continued to guide them, teaching what she had learned, inspiring confidence, and proving that even the smallest and youngest could make a difference. Liara watched quietly, proud of the child who had become more than a survivor. Mika had grown into a leader, a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. The Xylar forces, powerful and precise as they were, could not predict the heart of a human child who inspired others, who acted with courage and intelligence, and who refused to be powerless. One evening, as the survivors gathered safely in a hidden courtyard, Mika looked at the stars above. The city was still scarred, and the war was not over, but she felt hope. Human courage and ingenuity had turned the tide in small ways, and these sparks could grow into a force that even the Xylar could not ignore. Liara knelt beside her. You see now, Mika, why humans endure. You are small, yes, but your courage, intelligence, and heart can inspire a world. Today, you proved it. She had survived, inspired others, and learned that even a child could change the course of events through cleverness, courage, and compassion. She knew the future would be difficult, but she also knew humans were capable of enduring, inspiring, and thriving against impossible odds. The battlefield was quiet for a moment, the fires dying down, the sounds of war faint. Mika understood that this was just the beginning. More challenges would come, more decisions, more risks, but she felt ready. She had courage, intelligence, and heart. She had Liara, she had the humans she had inspired, and she had herself. The night sky stretched endlessly above the city, stars twinkling like tiny sparks of hope. Mika took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything she had learned and accomplished. She realized that the story of humanity was not just one of survival. It was one of courage, ingenuity, and the ability to inspire others, no matter how small or young. The battlefield had been terrifying, the enemies powerful, and the odds impossible. Yet Mika and the humans she guided had survived. They had acted cleverly, inspired each other, and proven that human courage could never be underestimated. For Mika, the journey was far from over. But she knew now that no matter the challenge, humans could endure, adapt, and inspire. And even in the darkest times, one small spark, one child, could light the way for many. The city lay quiet beneath them, but hope burned bright. Mika stood tall, looking forward, ready for whatever came next. She was small, yes, but she was fierce, clever, and brave. And she was human.